Discerning truth in a sea of lies. Live from Kalispell, Montana, it's Critical Disclosure Radio with your host, Jim White.
Okay, I'm your host, James White. This is Critical Disclosure Radio. Thanks so much for joining me here today on this third day of March 2022. And let me turn on all of the streams here and get everything going. Thanks so much for joining us here today. We are coming to you live from Kalispell, Montana. Looks like the Foxhole stream didn't pick up right away, so it's going to pick up here in a minute, and it's going to start playing music in the background here. You're going to hear that feedback. We're waiting for Martin Lynch to join us here on the broadcast. He should, here it goes. All of the streams here. Okay, let me mute that. We're waiting for Martin Lynch to join us here on the broadcast. He should be here any time. I can text him here and let him know that the Zoom is open. Anyway, Marty's doing some great work in Arizona. He has helped. The legislators here, actually. So let me get him to. He's helped the legislators here in Montana, and to draft the bill for. Let me text him here. To draft the bill for the tech censorship here that I testified in front of the Montana legislature. And then, within a month, had all my YouTube channels taken down. Well, my main one, at any rate, taken down. Believe it or not, I am back on YouTube today. I don't know how long that's going to last, but I do have a Critical Disclosure YouTube channel. I don't have it's a fraction of the followers that I used to have. I mean, it's way below. It's, I think, under 500 followers. At any rate, I'm broadcasting back on YouTube for the first time in a long time. I already have one strike against me, I think, from community guideline strike. So who knows how long that will last, but I'm going to play it out until I wasn't going to get back on YouTube, but I figured, I'll just get on there until they kick me off, which is probably going to be any time. At any rate, we are waiting for Marty Lynch to get here on the broadcast. I sent him over the Zoom meeting, and he should be joining us pretty soon. Marty has been doing some excellent work. He's trying to get the juries impaneled for Child Protective Services. If you're not familiar with Child Protective Services and everything that goes on with that, man, I tell you, I should really try to post all of those interviews that I did again. If I had an assistant here to do that, I would. But I did a tremendous amount of interviews with parents that had been victimized by CPS, the family court system. And folks, it's just it's outrageous what goes on. Now, I'd listened back to the show yesterday, which I really, really do, and I realized that my volume, this microphone, and I'm gonna have to research a different microphone, I think, because when I turn away or I look up to look at the screen, because there's several different screens here, the volume seems to fade, and it doesn't seem to be as strong. So I just really recognize that. So I apologize. I'm going to try to keep talking directly into the microphone here as much as I can. I do have to monitor there's 4 different monitors here. You can't see, but one's a big monitor. I don't even know what size that is, a 40-inch monitor. It's right above my desk here on the left. But I have a couple of feeds on there for chats and things like that if people want to chat. At any rate, we're hoping that Marty checks in with us here pretty soon. He's been on the show several times in the past, and always come in on time, and been here when he was supposed to be here. So I don't know. I hope everything's all right with Marty. I don't know. I know we're in a different. I think we're in the same time zone now, as a matter of fact. So that shouldn't be an issue. So we'll hope that Marty gets here anytime. If not, we'll just go ahead and wing it. I don't know what I'll talk about here really, because I don't have anything necessarily prepared for a backup. But hey, Jennifer. Thank you, everybody in the chat room. Hello, good to see you guys, too. Yes, we are back in the fight. We never really left the fight. We left the CPS fight for a little while. I'm starting to get back into speaking back to some people in CPS and we'll likely at some point get back and doing some of that work again. It's very difficult to do if you haven't ever tried to do it. Boy, I tell you, I would suggest another career path if your children want to grow up and and do radio broadcast, battling CPS. I would suggest another profession if I were them, because it's not a lot of fun, to put it mildly. At any rate, if anyone's listening out there that knows Melinda or anybody else out there, Mike, that knows Marty, you have his phone number, give him a call and give him a heads up if you could, to let him know that I would call him here right now. Maybe I can call him on the break. I got a break coming up in 9 minutes, maybe 8 minutes. So what I'll do is I'll just ramble on here, I guess, for another 8 minutes, and I'll try to call him at the break. Really would like to get him on because that's really important. It's an important issue. Is the the jury things is fantastic, because right now these parents have no. There's so much power consolidated into the hands of so few when you're dealing with family court, CPS, and Child Protective Services, or Department of, I think it's DPHHS here in Montana. And it's other names in other states. It's named differently. Ultimately, though, what it is the state agency, usually a branch of the Department of Social Services, who apparently the mandate is to protect children and reunite families and bring families together. And it doesn't happen that way, unfortunately. It doesn't. It's turned into, sadly, like many things, it's turned into nothing but a cash, an ATM. It's basically an ATM. Speaking of ATMs, did you see you see what's coming, folks? I'm not sure if you saw the headlines here. It's not widely reported, but this is a side note here until Marty shows up. They are closing down across Australia. They're closing down the ATMs, and there's going to be no more ATMs. And they're moving everything to digital. They're moving everything to digital banking. Now, what you see in Australia is they seem to lead the pack in tyranny. It's like they're like the tyranny test case. That group is in Australia. They practice the tyranny with them first, and then if they're successful, they move that on to the wider population. So that's what's coming up. And I don't know where that headline was, but maybe it was on the Daily Mail or something. I'm not sure. Maybe I saw it on Gab. At any rate, they're going to be closing down ATMs all across Australia, and eventually they will phase them out. They'll phase them out. Now, we talked about this yesterday. Everything goes digital. Did you see what they did in Russia? Of course, we showed the photo yesterday, or covered the article, where in Russia they cut out all the Apple Pay, phone, and the Google Pay. They just pretty much cut it off, so people couldn't get into the subway. They couldn't ride the subway. They were sort of closed off from riding the subway because of the Apple and Google turning off their phones, turning off their payment plan on their phones, their payment mechanism. This is what they'll be doing to everyone. I mean, understand, who is the person that is the arbiter of this? Who's the one that decides, what offense reaches the level of you having to have your stuff cut off? Because that's really kind of what we're moving into. We're moving into, sort of a dystopic future where everything is going to be on your phone. This right here is going to contain everything right there. That's going to contain, they want to anyway, they want that to contain everything. And if that happens, they can pretty much cut your life off, essentially. That is what they'll have the ability to do. You see them doing it right now in a smaller scale. You see them doing that with, alternative media people, censoring them and cutting them off different networks. It's not a very long stretch of the arm over to the button that cuts off your bank accounts. Not only does it cut off your social media, but, a little flick of the switch and cut off all your bank accounts as well. They're going to be able to, so everything's going to be, if everything goes online electronically like that. Your mobile service, of course, is going to be online. You're going to pay that online. Your electricity, you're probably going to be connected and paying that online. your gas or whatever else, propane, whatever you use there, that's probably going to be moved online. And they can literally, with a flick of a switch, cut off everything for you. You can't buy groceries. You can't buy gas. You can't buy fuel. Who would want to these days, right? I just noticed here, it jumped, I want to say it jumped like 8 cents a couple of days ago, and it jumped another 8 cents here overnight, or just a matter of fact, I came into my studio really early this morning and did some work and then went back, and since the time I left this morning and then came back for the show, it has went up 8 cents here right around the corner from my office. So that is pretty much going to be the trend, I think, going forward. You can't print, as we stated here, you can't print trillions and trillions of dollars and not have some sort of a, some sort of a blowback from that. You just can't, you can't do it. You can't print trillions of dollars and not have some consequences. And not to mention the fact that, the conflict that's going on over there in Eastern Europe doesn't help either. And these people that run things here with these oil industries, the oil companies, it doesn't really take much for them to jack the price up. I mean, they if there's any type of a perceived disruption anywhere in the world, or it may, in some, even some harebrained scenario may affect the supply lines, they're jacking up the price. I mean, it's just automatic. They're jacking it up, and they've really jacked it up quite a bit here lately. I don't know how much of that has to do with refinery. I don't know how much that has to do with, we're moving into the warmer months, and it always goes up then anyway. So it's probably going to be going up, because I believe they do some new emissions or something in the summertime. They switch up the formula. I know not in all states, but I know the states that have those strict, and California is one of them. So this is, they jack the price up, of course, in the summertime. And because more people are traveling, more people are driving, so they're going to be able to make more profits, and they're a for-profit company. So, in a free market, they can do that. However, it's not really a free market, as you know. It's all really manipulated. The precious metal markets are manipulated. You know that the diamond industry, it's an artificial scarcity. It's really not as rare as they make it out to be. But of course, if you really can convince people that something is rare, then they're going to be willing to pay more for it. So what you do is, even though you have a whole ton of diamonds or availability, you don't let that be known. You sort of let people believe that it's scarce and it's hard to find and you can't mine it very easily. And when you put all those factors together, that gives you a good excuse to jack the price, which is what they do. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break here. I'm going to try to call Marty. I'd like to get Marty on the line. I'll call him at his home here in the break and see if I can find out what is going on. My name is James White. I'll be back after these brief messages. CriticalDisclosure.com, NorthwestLibertyNews.com. Hang around. I'll be right back. Today's broadcast is sponsored by Heaven's Harvest Emergency Survival Food. Folks, as you can probably tell from watching the news, there's about to be a real big food shortage in this country. The trucker strike all across the world, especially here in the United States and Canada, is going to stop the food from flowing in here. There's no better time than right now to plant a garden for this spring. Spring is just around the corner, and you can save on shipping over at heavensharvest.com by going to heavensharvest.com and typing in Jim at checkout. Now, all you need to do is buy an heirloom seed vegetable kit or any food bucket and type in Jim at checkout, and you'll receive free shipping. Folks, don't wait. There's not much time left before the food supply is literally going to be shut down. We see this on the news every day. It's time to take your food security in your own hands. Do that by going to heavensharvest.com, picking up an heirloom vegetable seed kit, type in Jim at checkout. heavensharvest.com.
7K Metals is legacy. They help you leave a legacy for your family. Reasonable and affordable. Anyone can own gold and silver. It creates great generational wealth and residual passive income. No minimum or maximum order. 7K Metals has a Better Business Bureau A+ rating. It's about leaving a legacy for your family. It's about helping people. Now is the time to find out more information about protecting yourself. Call Carla at 406-855-2761. That's 406-855-2761. Today is a great time to buy gold and silver as a hedge against poor government decisions and potential economic collapse if history repeats itself. Take control of your financial future. Call Carla at 406-855-2761. 406-855-2761. Call now. 7K Metals and ask about your legacy.
PatriotPrepared.com carries the leading brands of storable food from Legacy and Heaven's Harvest. Patriot Prepared. Our name says it all. We're dedicated to empowering you to be self-reliant and confident in any circumstance. Whether you want to be prepared in the event of an emergency or you're an outdoor sports enthusiast, PatriotPrepared.com has prepackaged meals and kits for your entire family. Legacy, Heaven's Harvest are known for high-quality, great-tasting, GMO-free, nutritious food with no chemical preservatives. Simple to prepare, easy to store, gluten-free and organic high-quality nutrition options with a 25-year shelf life. You can't beat the feeling of being food secure when you need it most. So go to PatriotPrepared.com right now to pick up your supply of high-quality storable food for your family, because it makes good sense to be prepared. That's PatriotPrepared.com.
Okay, thanks for hanging out to the break. I'm your host, James White. I was able to get in contact with Marty. He has logged into the Zoom meeting. I think we're waiting for him to get his audio and his video connected, but he should be with us shortly. Let me give Marty a quick, here he comes. Let me give Marty a quick bio, I'll give you a quick background on Marty. Marty Lynch he's an aerospace degree to manufacturing process engineer and brings these skills to the family juvenile probate court system. Nothing that goes on in these courts is more complicated than building a jet airliner. Other people are doing a great job raising awareness. Martin is focused on solutions based directly on the constitutional authorities. Does any judge, one single person, have unlimited, unchecked power to take children, or absolute power corrupts absolutely? We have checks and balances everywhere for everybody. Unchecked judicial power. Where is the check on judicial power for the judges? See Federalist 83. Marty Lynch, let me pop over to the screen here where you actually have your name there. Marty, thanks so much for joining us here today on Critical Disclosure Radio. We appreciate you being here, brother.
Hey, good to be with you.
Good to be with you. Okay, so Marty, as you know, we have done numerous shows together. I did a lot of that work with CPS back in the day, a couple of years ago, and you've done work and studied that system as well for a long time. It's troubling, to say the least, to see what goes on within the family court system and the child protective services industry, and it is an industry, folks. It's an industry, all right. It's a money making deal. Marty, give us an overall view before we get into the brass tacks here. We got about 11 minutes, and we have to take a network break, and then we have no breaks at the second half. Give us an overall view, just your view, so everybody knows sort of where you come from. Where you come from. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I can't see there's more of a dangerous, but to me, there's no more of a dangerous place for a child to end up than in the clutches of child protective services, the foster care system, and the family court system. That's just me, and that's based upon my research. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Marty Lynch, let's just start here with an overall view. Give me your view of the CPS, Child Protective Services, DPHSS, whatever it's called in your town, the family court system, the foster care system. Give me your overall assessment of on a scale from 1 to 10 as far as following their mandate of protecting children and keeping families together. How good or how bad are they doing right now? Marty Lynch, thanks for being here.
Okay. And so you can hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Well, first I have to challenge your mandate, and that came up in a discussion down at the state capitol yesterday, is because in the documents it says, the paramount importance is the safety of the child. Okay, and that's that statement by itself is unconstitutional. Okay, we do not throw out the Constitution whenever you're talking about the safety of the child, or getting vaccinated, or being able to work, whether you're vaccinated or not, and you're entitled to due process before anybody violates life, liberty, or property. Okay, so it's, the 14th Amendment is critical. If you know what it says word for word, and that's pretty much word for word what it says, life, liberty, or property, you're entitled to be afforded due process. The Equal Protection Clause is right next to it. They're both embedded in Clause 1. Okay, so both of those are very powerful. But due process in this case is, the idea that they can take your children and give you the same due process that they would give you for a parking ticket is just nonsense. Okay, if you apply it's just common sense. And then so if you know that common sense and the Constitution pretty much goes hand in hand, the law itself, if you know that there's a checks and balances on everybody, that includes you and me and all the judges and all the people in the legislature, the governor, the president. Everybody has checks and balances, limits on their power. That's what the Constitution was originally created to accomplish. And Scalia puts this very eloquently. I can't top what he says. It's a YouTube video. It's 7 minutes and 20 seconds long. It's American exceptionalism is what makes America great. And what sets us apart from all other countries in the world, practically, that I don't know of any exceptions. Look what Canada's doing. Okay, is that we have not only just the Bill of Rights, but we have mechanisms to enforce the limits on the power of other people, other entities, other organizations. And so when you look at what DCS does, we'll just use them as an example. There's others if you want to go there. They have been, I don't know, how they talked people into the situation that we have right now? Because this should have been recognized immediately as, well, you guys can't do that. Okay. And they said, well, let's just do it and see if anybody complains about it. And so now they're complaining about it, but, do you really know what to do about it? That's your dilemma. And the answer to it is you look, there's a check, there's a balance, there's limits on their power someplace in the Constitution. Why? Let's just take a look. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Hold on, Mark. Let me stop for a second. It doesn't seem like the judges have that checks and balances, because in Montana, for example, here, and you're very familiar with Montana. You helped us with some legislative stuff here, and you probably will again. As a matter of fact, I know you've befriended several of the Montana legislators. But here in Montana, there's, I think, 7 or 8 lawsuits right now on bills that have went through the full legislative process, that have a chance to have open debate with the community. The men and women of Montana had a chance to speak about it. It got sent to the Senate, back to the House. It got amended. Everybody that went through the process, signed by the governor into law, and now the Supreme Court can move in and claim that that's unconstitutional and essentially turn over, I guess, as many of those lawsuits as they choose to have in favor of the opponent, the opposing side. They can grant those, grant those verdicts. So what happens is essentially, Marty, is the Supreme Court here is the one that really makes the law, because if it goes through the legislative process, the legislators are the closest to the folks. You know this. There's a separation of powers that's not really being exercised or being recognized here. It seems to be judicial supremacy is what it seems to be, and that is not how it should be. Go ahead, Marty.
Okay, so the way our system of government is set up is you have the judicial system, like you just said, and they're supposed to be separate, and and members of that or any branch of government may not walk across the street and exercise authority and collect a paycheck from another branch of government. That's prohibited explicitly in most state constitutions, and it's implicitly prohibited in the U.S. Constitution. If I had to criticize the founding fathers on one thing, it would be only that they said, well, the stuff is so obvious, we're not going to put it in here. There's numerous examples of that. And one of them is separation of powers. They said, well, you're given authority, and then everything else you don't have. Okay. So that's the default condition. Okay. So the way the system works, and I think every person of discernment has to, think about this and agree with it, is that we have a set of rules and laws, and everybody's expected to abide by them, especially the judges. They're the keepers of the law, okay, and the attorneys, okay. In fact, the way the system works is that when somebody steps outside of their constitutional boundaries, if nobody does anything about it and says, no, you can't do it, okay, well, then by default, they are within the law doing whatever it is that they want to do. Okay. Their interpretation holds sway. Okay. And so it is incumbent upon us, the people, to keep a sharp eye on the government. Okay. So if you don't understand how the system works and what your responsibilities are, it's not just voting. Okay. Then you are wide open to being exploited by these people. And there were a lot of discussions on this topic that are written in the Federalist Papers. They talked about, well, how come this isn't written down, and how are you going to prevent King George from doing the same thing? If you look at the Declaration of Independence, one of the reasons we told King George to get lost was because for denying us in many cases the benefits of trial by jury. That's word for word what they say. Okay. And there's a bunch of other stuff. But what we're dealing with here, the government just naturally wants to take away your due process rights. They want to dictate to you. That's right. whatever it is that and so it's like breathing air for them. Okay. And so it's our job to be ever vigilant. Okay. And that's Ronald Reagan said it. We're never more than one generation away from losing the whole thing. It's not in our bloodstream, and it has to be fought for. It has to be watched. You have to watch it like a hawk, and the founders recognized it, and you can see it all through the Constitution. Is that the biggest danger to our freedom is our own government? Okay, and they lived it with King George, Marty, so we're in the same situation.
Marty, we only got about 2 minutes, and we got to take this hard network break. But when I come back on the other side, I want to immediately get into the court case. I have the documents ready to bring up on screen, the court documents and stuff that you sent me the other day. But I want to just lay this out here before we get to the other side of the break. What people don't understand is when you're a parent and you go into the family court system, most of the time you have a public defender because they target people that don't have a lot of resources specifically, so they can't get legal coverage. So you have a public defender. On the other side, you have a prosecutor. Mm-hmm. You have the bailiff. You have the judge. You have the court recorder. All those people draw money from the same pot of money. They're the same. They get their checks assigned by the same group, the same system. You are in there oftentimes alone as a parent. Against this whole entire machine, and you just shod right over. I mean, it just happens over and over again. One of the ways to help, sort of alleviate that, or at least mitigate that, is a trial by jury. Is have a jury of your peers in there, so the judge and all that mechanism can't walk all over you, and that's what you're trying to do, Marty.
You hit the nail on the head.
Well, I just was able to go over your document. I didn't have a whole lot of time to review it, but we can certainly do that after the break. Is there anything you want to add to that? We got just under a minute. Anything you want to add to that before we have to take the hard network break, Marty?
Well, the knowledge is the key. Okay, and like you said, the system is stacked against the litigant, especially somebody that doesn't have money. And by the way, you shouldn't have to have money to get justice. That's just a fallacy.
Absolutely right.
So it's really a systems problem. Okay, if you take, I know good lawyers and good judges. Okay, but the problem you've got is if you have a bad system, you can take good people and bad people, which is what you're going to inevitably wind up with, put them into that bad system and get bad results.
Hold that thought, Marty. We just got to go to a break here. CriticalDisclosure.com. That's CriticalDisclosure.com, NorthwestLibertyNews.com. And we are hosted by Brighteon Radio.com. I'm your host, James Wright. We'll be back after these brief messages with Martin Lynch.
So my apologies.
Okay, thanks. We're back after the break. I'm your host, James White. Thanks so much for hanging around. This is Critical Disclosure Radio, CriticalDisclosure.com, NorthwestLibertyNews.com. We broadcast 5 days a week here, Monday through Friday, 10 to 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on a variety of different networks. Let's see, Podbean, Twitch, Rumble, Foxhole, and another one too, Facebook, and of course Brighteon Radio. That's brighteonradio.com. And we do appreciate you looking in on the show. You can find out everything, all the different links, by going to libertylinks.io/Jim's Links. And you can tune into all the different networks and everything that we put the show out on. Okay, we're joined by Marty Lynch, who's an engineer, former aerospace engineer. And he took all of those mad skills that he learned doing that stuff and turned them over and started acting, in a proactive manner to really rein in the out of control CPS family court system. It's unconstitutional. He talked about due process. That is the thing that is almost never followed, is due process. Folks, if someone's going to take your children, for example, you want to be able to have a jury of your peers. You want to be able to call witnesses in on your behalf, character witnesses if that's the case. There's a process that goes through. It should be so hard it's almost impossible to take someone's children away. I mean, think about that. Now, that's not to say, and I know Marty would agree with me, that's not to say that there are situations out there where children are being abused and are in danger and it needs some intervention or some way to help, keep these children from being harmed or permanently or worse. There, no doubt about it, there are some parents out there that don't deserve to be parents. However, that doesn't excuse basically the tyrannical machine that's been developed throughout the country with CPS, family court system, that just grinds families up into powder, and they do it while they're lining their pockets with billions and billions of dollars. It's misery capital. They're creating misery and they're capitalizing on it. Sorry for that diatribe there, Marty, but thanks for hanging on after the break. Any comment you care to make on that? Hold on, let me take you off mute. Hold on. Do you see the button there for mute? There we go. It's asking you to unmute. Just go ahead and click. There you go. Marty Lynch.
There we go. Okay, so I don't think that they wake up in the morning and say, oh, we're going to go out and create misery. I'm convinced that it's a very lucrative thing for them, what they're doing. And so you have that financial incentive that, and then you have something the founders called human nature. Okay. And so you pay somebody to do something, and then you pay them more to do more of it. Okay. Well, then you can expect to get what we have. Okay. It's just common sense. Okay. And so, I was in a meeting down at the Capitol yesterday on this topic, and I said, I'm a process guy. I'm not going to point fingers at anybody, because, where I come from, the people themselves making the mistakes, we look past that to how is it, number one, that they would make the mistake in the first place, and then what can we do to put in place something that if you remove this person and replace them with somebody else, that you wouldn't wind up with the same situation and condition 15 minutes later. Okay. So if you're not asking those questions, okay, then you don't understand what the problem is. And if you don't understand what the problem is, you got almost zero chance of fixing the problem. So going back to what you were initially saying is, we presented data from the National Center of Child Abuse and Neglect in Washington, D.C., and just in three categories here. The rate of physical abuse with parents is a third of what it is with children who are in custody of the state. Sexual abuse. A child is almost 9 times more likely, statistically, to be sexually abused by when they're in the custody of the state than when they're in the custody of their parents. And fatalities is almost 5 times more likely. Okay, and so then the question has to be asked. The second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence is indispensable reading. Okay, in there they use the term, it is your right, it is your duty to alter or abolish whatever kind of government doesn't work. Okay, and they gave us the example. They said, well, King George, you're abolished, and we'll take it from here. So in our situation, looking at what we're dealing with, we see, and this came up in the meeting, is we have two operational choices here. One is to apply due process to the government taking your children, okay, which is required by the Constitution, or we just abolish DCS or CPS, whatever you call it in your state, and the idea that we would keep something around where the cure is far worse than the disease. We have the evidence to show that. Okay. So we're not that picky.
Let me interject for 1 second. One of the facts that I know you know this fact, but you just didn't include it in the latest list. 50% of the children, folks, 50%, look it up. 50% of the children that go through the foster care system end up in the penal system. They end up in jail. So you understand, this is, once they get you into the system, you are basically a commodity to them. The longer they can keep you in the system, the longer they can collect money from you as a person or your children. And if they can move right out of the foster care system right into the penal system, are you kidding me? That's a jackpot for them. That's a big win. That's a huge score for these scoundrels. I know you have a little bit brighter outlook on things than I do, Marty, but I can't stand these cretins. These people are the lowest form of life. I can't even call them humans. Some of these people that take these children with pleasure. They do it with pleasure, these folks.
Oh, okay. Now that point is well taken. However, I will revert back to the founders again and their in-depth understanding of human nature and the purpose of juries. If you want to study that particular element of due process, and that's what it is, for due process simply means you're being treated fairly in the courts. And the purpose, according to paragraph 17 of the Federalist 83, and they talk about it extensively in that section of Federalist 83. The purpose of juries is to prevent corruption. So if we sit back and allow them to take juries out of the courts, or you don't ask for your rights, okay, then and insist that your rights be extended to you and implemented in your case, then and the purpose of a jury is to prevent corruption, and they take it out. What reasonable result can any person of discernment expect? Is you're going to have corruption. Okay, and so that's why it's so important to understand how the process works, how it's intended to work, how it's supposed to work, and the difference between that, what the as is condition versus the to be condition. Then you can come up with a solution. All we're doing is saying you're going to put due process into the system here, and if you don't, then the only thing we have left to do is abolish. And, oh, by the way, this country's been around for like 240 some odd years, almost 250 years. How did we survive for over 200 years without the government having unlimited power to come into your home and take your children in case somebody said something?
And almost unlimited budget and almost zero oversight. Let's not forget that. The money just keeps flowing.
Of course.
Marty, I've got the document up here. I want to get to these documents here because I think they look important to me, like we should be looking at them. Okay, so I've got the first document here I have. I'm not sure if you can see it. If you're looking at a feed from one of the video feeds, you can see it. If not, you're going to know which one it is. It's in the Judiciary Committee of the Arizona State House of Representatives. Petitioner, yep. Martin Lynch. Respondents, Justice Brighteon. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yep.
Give us a recap of that, Marty, while I got it on the screen here for the folks.
I'm just going to pull it up quickly. Let's see.
So I've got that one, too, and I've also got the one with Sandra Day O'Connor on it and her time photo. I've got that one. The three you sent over to me the other day, and then Declaration of Independence. Go ahead.
The one that's created the most, it's most straightforward and obvious, is the second page of that second document that you talked about.
The first woman to appear on the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
Troxel versus Granville?
Look at page 2 of that document.
Okay, go ahead. Walk us through it. Oh,
okay.
The CPS, where the CPS are their professional kidnappers, where they've got that shirt that says professional kidnappers, that one? Yeah.
Well, people are saying, everything's that's supposed to be done is being done, and CPS is doing the best they can, and all their only problem is they need more money. Okay, the normal talking points that you hear regularly. Okay, and without due process, if you take if you detain any human being against their will and don't give them due process, well, then you are by definition committing the crime of kidnapping. That's what it is. Okay. And so we can argue about whether or not the DCS is a bunch of professional kidnappers, but we don't need to, because they just said it themselves. That photograph that you're looking at, if you have it up on the screen, you can show it.
I do.
That's fine.
Yep, I got it.
Okay. Is in Prescott, that's one of the other counties, not Maricopa County. The DCS office there, everybody says, wow, we just take children whenever we feel like it. We can get away with anything. Okay, so they even made up T-shirts that declared on the front, "We're professional kidnappers," and on the back it says, "Do you know where your children are?" Okay, so what does that say about the mindset of people that would make T-shirts like that, and then go out into the parking lot, all 10 or 11 of them, and model those shirts, take pictures, and put it up on social media.
They should also create orange jumpsuits for every one of these women while they're doing it. Might as well just create orange jumpsuits for them and bracelets to haul them off to jail, because that's where they belong.
Okay, so we understand your natural human reaction to this kind of behavior. Okay, and I'm not saying I disagree with it. However, what I don't want to do is what we're trying to avoid is having a and all those people were fired, by the way. Okay. And so what we don't want to do is have a situation where the process that allowed that kind of brazen declaration, "We are professional kidnappers, we are organized crime."
Sick.
So for that to even come to mind in the minds of these people, let alone become so pervasive that they're willing to go on social media and declare it to everybody in the world, there's nothing you could do about it. It shows you what number one, it gives you a great insight into they're admitting there's no due process in the system. They're just saying it. Okay. And so it's not like it's a real argument or bone of contention or discussion. It's like, okay, well, we know that statement is true. And then we can move on towards plugging the holes in the side of the ship. Okay. That's essentially what we're doing. We're not going to just pump water. Okay. We're going to plug the holes and put something together that when somebody goes into the system, that number one, they go in there because there's real reason for them to be there, pretty much, and then the exceptions to the rule are shunted off to the side. Okay, all right, you got your problem. It was a mistake. Take your kids and get out of here, and then if there are things that need to be done to remediate problems that somebody might agree is real, okay, that's done in a timely manner, and then once it's completed, then you get your kids back rather than moving the goalposts from one set of requirements you need to come up with to another. So that's what we're looking at doing, is trying to plug the holes in the ship rather than pump the water out.
Well, it's Marty, I'm a little bit more of a hardliner than you are. I worked with that for a couple of years, and I've talked to so many, hundreds of parents, and done probably hundreds of shows. And, some of the conversations I had, really exposed the dark underbelly of things that I never even knew existed, or never even really wanted to know existed, to be quite honest with you, brother. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick. I don't know if you're familiar with Sean McMillan. He's one of a group of attorneys that they come back 10 years after the damage is done, and they sue DCS, and they get $20 million settlements or whatever it is that they do. Okay, and from our standpoint, that's if you come back and you sue DCS and you get $20 million, that kid is still screwed up. Okay, your family you just got done spending 5, 10, 15 years in a living hell.
Plus, it's taxpayer money. What about these people individually, personally?
You're making my point for me, okay, which is great. Our position is that you should walk into the courts, and the courts know that, we have to do things right. We have to do things properly. We have to give people due process and follow the law, which requires it. And because if we don't, why a jury is liable to come in here and say and laugh at us and throw the thing in the trash. And so if you have an accusation and it turns out to be unfounded in a timely manner, and you get your children back, or there is something real to it, and you correct that, and then you get your children back in a timely manner, then the train wrecks that you see, those things disappear. Okay, in other words, we have a conveyor belt feeding these families with children into this meat grinding machine. Okay.
That's right.
And so, you can come back after the fact and sue somebody for all the grinding that they did, or you can shut off the conveyor belt.
Right.
And so that's what we're interested in doing. Okay. We're going to deal with families that, actually do need something extreme, and taking your children, that's extreme. Okay.
Well, how do we get juries? How do we get juries in, Marty? I've got this thing here. I've got the document up here with the when you talked in front of the Arizona legislature, I believe, the Judiciary Committee. Was that fruitful? Did that bear any fruit?
Yeah. There's people in there that are smart. They know things that I don't know, and vice versa. And and some ideas came up that people on our side haven't even thought of. Number one is metrics, measurements. They said, well, how do we even know the system's broken right now? We have no metrics other than these red T-shirts. Okay, and it's like, and then I told the lady, I says, if you're not careful, I'm going to accuse you of being a quality engineer, because if you're not measuring the outputs of your process by some standard, by some objective standard, then and this holds true for any organization or government or private business, anything. If you don't have any kind of metrics to examine, to try to improve what that number is. It could be as simple as a customer satisfaction survey. Everybody comes out of the courtroom and says,
Marty, they don't want oversight. They don't want oversight on themselves. They don't want this. They don't want this. I mean, why would they go along with that?
Well, that's an excellent question. So that, and so you have to figure out a way to overcome that. Okay, to either go through it, go around it, go under it, go over it, whatever. Okay, and so it's very predictable that you're going to encounter this because there's money involved. Okay, and so it's real simple. In our case, we found a legislator that said, yeah, they're taking children without any due process for any reason or no reason at their own discretion, with unlimited power to do so. Well, we need checks and balances. Absolutely. It's not rocket science here. Okay. It's all common sense. Okay. And so there has been a very significant change already in the legislative branches of government, I'm sure in all states. And we're going to probably have more of that coming up. And so the opportunities that were not there 2 years ago are there now, and there's going to be more opportunities coming up. And so, the bottom line is the responsibility falls to the citizens to go out there and do the research. And this is a very important point I wanted to bring up is if you think that you can get an attorney to take your case and defend your rights, you don't understand what you're dealing with. Okay, because the legal profession is driven like money by money. Okay, ask any lawyer. Is money important to you? And there's two kinds of lawyers: others that will lie, and others will say, "Oh, hell yes." Okay, and so, the bottom line is that the educational work that you're doing here on this channel is indispensable. Okay, because if people don't understand the kind of situation that they're dealing with when they get into the court system, and the conflicts of interest that exist underneath under the radar, okay, well then you're just going to be chewed up and spit out by these people.
That's right.
And
that's right. Well, Marty, we've only got a couple of minutes left here, but because for the end of the show here, I think how long we have for about 3 minutes. I've said on this show often, and I think I heard you sort of saying the same thing. They can, even these 8 or 10 CPS workers that were wearing the shirts called professional kidnappers, they can flush all those people out and fire them all, which you said they did, and hire 8 or 10 more people and put them in their place. But if the system doesn't change, it's a matter of time before these people will be wearing pink shirts also. It's just a matter of time before the new people start acting like the old people, because the system is broken. It's the system. Marty Lynch, we only got about 2 minutes left. Go ahead. What do you think about all that stuff? Summarize things.
You hit the nail right on the head. I don't have to hardly do anything. That's the bottom line. And so there's a whole brand new set of people that are in that DCS office, and they're operating under the system as it existed when the other set of people were there. And so, the only thing that's going to change is, well, you probably won't see those shirts again. Okay. And so, so what we're doing right now and there's people down at the legislature that get it, and they understand there's going to be pushback. And so we look for common ground. It's politics, man, politics. Okay. And so, now it's been through, the bill that we're dealing with now is, it's not perfect. It's not what I would put in there, but it's has most of everything, and it's solid. And and it's made it through the House Judiciary Committee, the Rules Committee, the Committee of the Whole, and now it's on the way over to the Senate, where it goes through the same process. And there's going to be an amendment or two, and then it'll have to go through reconciliation with the House, and the House will have to vote on it again. So, there's support for it. Democrats, their constituencies are disproportionately affected by this bureaucracy. Okay. And so we've had unanimous votes. So if people think that all is lost, there's nothing you could do. Okay. Well, then who's your legislator? And I invariably get, well, is it Joe Biden? Okay. And it's like, no, we go on the website, we find it. And this is the person you call, go down there and tell them we need to fix this thing. And a recipe to fix it, that exists. Okay, it's in the Constitution.
Marty, we're going to have to come you back on. We'll have to have you back on again here to discuss this further, because this is a very important topic. We're just out of time now, my friend. Marty Lynch, constitutional scholar, engineer. info@wtpcs.org. info@wtpcs.org. If you want to reach out to Marty, you can do it that way. Criticaldisclosure.com, northwestlibertynews.com. If you want to drop me an email, it's nwlnews@protonmail.com. We're just out of time. Marty, thanks so much for being here. I want to thank my guest, Martin Lynch. Till next time, this is James White for Critical Disclosure Radio, saying bye now.